What's up YouTube, Crafting Cards here, happy Tuesday. Now in today's video, we're going to continue stripping down this B16 until there's nothing left but a bare block. And along the way, we're going to be looking for any possible damage that might have caused our low oil pressure issues. Now starting where we left off, we can take off this crank pulley and this crank pulley bolt. It's a 19mm bolt, and usually to get this off, you use the crank pulley holding tool and a couple breaker bars, try to snap it loose. But if you have access to an impact gun, a pretty strong one, you can actually get them off with that. So Gideon let me borrow his 18 volt, this is an M18 standard half-inch drive impact. We're gonna try this and see if it can break it free right away. Look at that. I don't know what these guns are rated for, but it was enough to get off this bolt that's usually tightened down to 180 foot-pounds. So with that off, I can slide off the crank pulley. Now there's a couple washers and a woodruff key you gotta watch out for when you slide this thing off. So there is the key right there. And the washers are inside here. Get the other one later. But make sure you don't lose this little guy. Pretty common, people lose this guy. Now I'm gonna take off this timing cover. And it should come right off. At this point, we can take off the timing belt. That all looks good. And this should come right off. And I'll go ahead and take off this mount here, followed by the tensioner. And I think, yeah, I might as well take off the water pump and the oil pump while I'm at it. Alright, so it fought me a little bit there, but eventually got everything off this face of the block. Got everything kind of organized into bags and laid out all neatly. So now we're going to make our way to the other side of the block. And I'm going to pull off this little aluminum assembly that goes around the rear main seal. Pull that off. And then once I get that off, I'll be able to take the block. I'll probably turn it up and then turn it towards us. And then I'll be able to take off the rod caps and the main caps, and we'll go from there.
Howdy, stranger.
Alright, so we've made it to this point. Everything's off the bottom, everything's off both sides. I went ahead and put the crank pulley bolt back on here, just with my little 12 volt impact. So I can go ahead and take my ratchet and turn the crankshaft around as I need, because we're gonna have to take off these rod caps And then after we get all 4 of these rod caps off, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're gonna wanna take off these main caps here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You're so
Just crazy about you.
Alright, so now that we got the crank out, we could take a look at those crank journals. And just like the rod journals, not looking so hot. Pretty scored up. I don't know if I'm gonna have to get a new crank. I'm guessing so. It's kind of turning into a depressing video, sorry about that. But then go ahead and look over at the main bearings and they are all destroyed. There's a bunch of gold flaking off them and everything. Not good. The caps for both the rods and the mains are looking good. Thank God, so I can reuse those. But yeah, so gotta keep moving forward. That sucks, but it's the name of the game. I'm gonna have to take these brackets off here, and then these little Golden Eagle oil squirter plugs. Gonna wanna pull those out as well. Alright, so at this point we've completed everything we set out to do. This B16 block has been stripped down to just the bare block. I still gotta clean off a little RTV and oil before I ship it out to CSS, but it's pretty much good to go. And we also found, because of the low oil pressure and the knocking noise today, that's definitely these bearings, especially rod bearings on number 3 here, and all the main bearings just look like trash. And obviously, it took the journals out with it, which is quite unfortunate. Now, that caused the low oil pressure, but what caused the bearings to fail in the first place, you know? My best guess is those main bearings, because that's the only thing that I didn't touch when rebuilding this engine. Because when I purchased the engine, the seller told me engine ran good. He pulled it out of an EG hatch that was in an accident, but engine ran smooth and everything. Although I doubt he had an oil pressure gauge in his car because it wasn't turbocharged or anything. If I have one regret, it's I should have replaced those main bearings. And I had a coworker telling me at work, telling me that I should check those main bearings, you know, at least just look at them. We looked at all the rod bearings and stuff because that's one thing I wanted to upgrade. And all the rod bearings, all the OEM rod bearings just look perfect. They were in great condition. All the tolerances were still in spec. So I just assumed, since those all look good, the main bearings were good, but I should not have assumed, and here we are. So, and definitely wasn't expecting to replace the crank there, but definitely wasn't expecting a $600 stimulus check we just got too. So that might go to that. And yeah, so it's just kind of hitting me that, oh shit, time to restart, you know, we're back to the beginning. But I know a lot more now than I did when I first built this engine. And yeah, so talk it up in the comments down below. If you're into cars or you got friends that are into cars, don't be afraid to share this video with your friends. Leave a like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, highly recommend you do so, because this is kind of a new beginning here. We're back down to ground, you know, step one, and we can only go up from here. So recommend you stay tuned and everything, and yeah, thanks again. Bye.